It's really important as a university to stay apolitical because we need to be a safe haven for all students and, practice what we preach. We're talking about embracing diversity. That's not limited to just these metrics of diversity.
The best thing that I heard, was this phrase called Hoyas helping Hoyas. And I thought, oh, is there something on the website? It's truly not. Hoyas helping Hoyas, I think, is the most homogenous thing about MSB. It is truly the driving force of everything that happens here.
So on the admissions side, we have holistic review, but what that actually means is we are looking across 3 different verticals of assessment. We assess people, not judge people on the admissions committee. We recognize that on the day you took the test, it could have been the worst day of your life and that it did not accurately reflect your capabilities.
Be yourself. I know it sounds cliche, but truly be yourself. It's okay.
This is your opportunity as a candidate to put a personality, a face, a presence to your application to force the admissions committee to look beyond the paper.
Hey, MBA hopefuls. We are live on the air with MBA Waves, talking things all business and education. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to help us continue to create all this free content. I'm your host for today, Eric Lucrezia, joined by my co-hosts Bara Sapir and Krithika Srinivasan, and we have 2 guests today joining us today from the DC area. From Georgetown McDonough School of Business, we have Anne Kilby Jilani, who is the Associate Dean of MBA Admissions at Georgetown, and second-year full-time MBA student, Medha Dalela, who is not only a student, but also the DEI rep for the cohort and VP for the Career and Georgetown Marketing Association, as well as VP for Engagement for Out at MSB. Welcome, everyone, to MBA Waves.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So glad to have you. And today on episode 159, Spotlight on Georgetown McDonough, we're going to be focusing on just how diverse Georgetown really is, what Washington, D.C. is like as a global business hub, and what the Georgetown McDonough experience is really like. So let's dive right into it. Ladies, tell us what's new and exciting at Georgetown these days.
Well, I'll kick it off, Medha. So today is decision day for round 1. So we've had our early action round so far, and we're in round 1. We have round 2 and round 3 ahead of us. But we should fill about 25% to a third of the class with this round. So it's a big release and it's an exciting day. We've been making admit calls all morning, so apologize in advance if someone calls me back. But that's what's really on our minds right now is welcoming this new batch of candidates coming in to start next fall.
Awesome. That's exciting.
And Medha is in exams, so she's probably in a different headspace than me. But Medha.
Yeah. It's lock-in season. It's assignment season. We have finals week starting. It's an exciting time to be right now in Harry. There's like a lot of energy in the building itself.
Awesome.
And it's all decorated for Christmas, which is always really nice. We have these giant nutcrackers all over the building, which is a little bizarre when you first see them, but it makes you feel like you're in the holiday time.
I love the holiday time. I love the decorations. I love driving down my street and seeing all the lights. So I know that when schools go all out with it, it's just so, especially when you've got finals, right? Like it's like gingerbread cookie finals, but very nice. So I'd like to dive into just talking about diversity. And if you could talk a little bit about the statistics in your current program, the diversity statistics, and how does the school help to ensure that you're crafting a diverse cohort and admissions process? Yeah,
absolutely. So I can share some of this foundational knowledge, and then certainly Medha can talk about it more in action. But a great question, Bara. So in the U.S., because I recognize we have a global audience here, so welcome to all. In the U.S., we had a Supreme Court ruling last summer in 2023 that shook up the higher ed industry, the biggest shakeup in half a century, where it was an affirmative action ruling where the ruling was admissions offices and higher ed have to go race blind. Where previously we were able to include race as one of many factors as our decision-making process. So that was, we anticipated that could be an option, but it was still a huge shock to us and a bit disheartening, to be honest. And so we were challenged to take a step back in McDonough admissions for the MBA program and think about diversity from a broader sense. While we've always thought about diversity beyond race and ethnicity, we needed to ensure that we were collecting the appropriate data, having the appropriate considerations to ensure we are crafting a diverse cohort, because at Georgetown McDonough, we thrive in diversity. And it's something that we want to ensure there's a mutual fit with the candidates. So some of the things that we collect and we consider are first generation college student. We consider socioeconomic status. We've always looked at industry representation and education representation. We want to see no majority on either of those, because Georgetown is not one size fits all. We again, you're going to think I'm being repetitive because I'm going to keep saying it. We thrive in diversity. We, like, the highest industry that's represented is 20%. The highest education major that's represented is 25%. So they're really, it's just, it's really broad. We look at military representation, gender, sexual identity, so many different aspects. And then qualitatively, we took a new look at our essays and made sure that they are capturing diversity of thought, diversity of experiences. And lastly, in the interview, that's when we can really have a dialogue about, this is the environment that we have at Georgetown. Is this a good fit for you? And fortunately, the summary is, despite the affirmative action ruling, we were able to maintain our diversity numbers for the incoming class. So we're really proud that these new initiatives pay off.
Yeah, it sounds like the way that you describe the different kinds of diversity, that it's not the assumptive diversities, right? So bringing in first generation, socioeconomic, like all the different things that you're talking about really reflect what the world of business is really about ultimately, right? And so it sounds like Georgetown is doing a really good job of creating that real world experience of what folks are going to experience in the real world of business. And I agree, diversity is what makes everything better, right? So, it's wonderful that Georgetown has been able to exemplify that.
Thank you, Bara. I appreciate that recognition.
I know it's not been easy for schools, particularly in the States, following that Supreme Court ruling, have been doing their best, like working their butts off to get that diversity. Affirmative action was one channel to make that a little bit easier. And with that gone, hey, look, it's making us have to think more creatively and come up with other solutions. And that's not always such a bad thing either. And it seems like you're achieving it despite that. So that's fantastic.
So far, Eric, but we are optimistic.
And I have a follow-up question to Medha on this, in terms of how does this diversity show up in action in the MBA community? You are the DEI rep, and I would love to hear more.
Yeah, I mean, to be very honest, it's just like Anne said, we do thrive in diversity. There's a lot that happens in McDonough, and my favorite part about what happens in McDonough is that it's not just one way. It's program office led, it's student led, it's community led. It's so well thought out that I know a lot of people know this, that an MBA student's calendar is always triple booked, if not double booked. And it's always packed full of different kinds of things that we're doing. And we have things like Global Fest, where we all come together to celebrate each other's cultures together. We have safe bubble conversations where we have serious discussions. We have weekly social events that we're hosted. I've tried so many different cuisines in this one building than I have in DC, and it truly is something that's not just on the website. I can feel it every day in the business school building.
I want to, Medha, thank you so much. I want to double down on Global Fest because it's my favorite event that we have here as well. And it is about a week long. And as Medha mentioned, it's a celebration of our cultural diversity, whether that's through food and having a potluck of students cooking their cultural cuisines, through wearing traditional clothing, through language. We'll have like 3 p.m. coffee chat. If you speak German, go do that and have coffee. Through traditions. So we usually have like a Chinese tea tradition ceremony. We always have dancing. So always have at least Bollywood dancing, but usually other styles of dancing as well. And again, it's the point is that we celebrate all that makes us so beautiful as a community, which is our cultural diversity and all these aspects of diversity. So just wanted to emphasize, I'm with you, Medha. It's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming from New York, I'm maybe a little bit biased. I love New York City, but DC is probably the city I've been to in the U.S. the most after New York City, and I absolutely love DC. It is a beautiful city. It is so vibrant, and even though I think New York is probably the first city people think of in the States anyway when it comes to like finance, business, there's a lot going on in Georgetown. Georgetown is way more of a business hub than I think a lot of people realize. It's something I want to get into a little bit later. But while we're talking about the diversity piece, DC is a city of politics, right? And every 4 years, there's a new election, right? There's an election and the government might entirely change. And that, I've got friends that have lived in DC for years and they can talk about how the city can evolve from one administration to the next. So, another element of diversity that doesn't as often get talked about is political leanings. And I know that can be important for schools as well, like to recruit people who are not just, universities, I think worldwide tend to be bastions of liberal thought, right? And so that can be sometimes intimidating for people who are on the right side of the political spectrum, more conservative people that may feel that, maybe it's not for me, an MBA, or, especially in certain states, quote unquote, blue states. So how do you grapple with that? How do you guys attract a diverse cohort in terms of political leanings?
Yeah, that is such a good question, Eric. And Medha, I really am eager to hear how you feel this as a student. So it's really important as a university to stay apolitical because we need to be a safe haven for all students and, practice what we preach. We're talking about embracing diversity. That's not limited to just these metrics of diversity. And so that includes political diversity because, and actually to take a step back, we're the oldest Jesuit institution in the United States. And the Jesuit tradition is to have intellectual discourse, which can only be heightened by diverse economic, familial, social, political, etc. backgrounds. And so it's necessary. And especially being in DC, where naturally we attract people who are contractors for the federal government, work for the government, are affiliated with think tanks or nonprofits or embassies. They need to feel like this is a safe place for that debate and discussion and stimulation. So we have formal structures to support. We have student groups focused on particular areas of politics. I know McCourt School of Public Policy offers a lot of special events around different speakers and workshops. I mean, I've seen a range of speakers here and enthusiastic regardless of their political type. They're celebrities in my eyes. So yes, it is very important for us to maintain being apolitical. But Medha, how do you feel this on an everyday basis?
I would echo what you said, and I have come across not only political leaders from the US. At Georgetown, I've also come across political leaders from other countries. I know we had Rahul Gandhi from India a couple of, I think a month ago. Mm-hmm. And DC as a city is so politically driven. you step outside and you could be on the curb and somebody's talking about what's happening at the Hill and how their day was at the Hill. And it's truly an exciting place to be. And I think within Georgetown, we do foster conversation so very well. And it's all done with so much respect. And you really come here with an open mind, and you sit with the speakers and you talk to them about, like, I've been to several events with senators who've talked about the policies that they've put into places and what went behind it and how they thought it through. I've taken courses over that. I've had guest speakers who've worked at the Hill, who've worked with the Supreme Court in classes. And it truly is a place where you can actually have a conversation about how this impacts everyday people, businesses, and everybody in between. I've always felt that the fact that it's so easy to have a conversation makes it really easy for us to learn a lot more about how we interact with the politics that's going on within the US and within, even the global environment.
It's really reassuring to hear, Medha. Since social media came out, right? We all know what's happened. We've forgotten discourse, right? We don't know how to have a conversation and disagree peacefully or civilly. I suppose we've globalized, it's brought the world together, but it's also divided it. Like, it's very, reassuring to know that Georgetown is kind of leading the way to ensure that we have discourse still, and the way that business and politics interplay to impact and hopefully benefit society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Even looking at this past week, right, with Syria, with things changing in Syria, I can imagine if you have any, I don't know if you do, but if you have any students, like how that has affected the students when their countries at home are going through these huge changes, right? So, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. I'm thinking also, Eric, the way that you talked about New York and how, New York is such a diverse place. When I think of DC and you come out, I don't know what the railroad station is, but you come out and then all of a sudden it, like, DC sort of opens up the way the Golden Gate Bridge opens up. It's one of these iconic places in the United States, but it's also, with all the white buildings, it becomes a canvas, right? For people to kind of create their experience. And so, Medha, when you were talking about the food and how you had all these different cuisines and all the embassies are there, and I've spent time there. A friend of mine owns a restaurant there, and the food is world class. Let's just, like, hands down. I had the best Indian food a couple years ago in DC. But can you talk a little bit, like, if we could go a deeper dive into what does DC offer students, just to let the people who are listening really understand, being in the U.S. Capitol, how that really impacts their learning?
Oh, this is my favorite question. I love DC so much, and I've only been here a while. You talked about embassies. I live in, I think, between two embassies, and just to say that out loud is so wild to me that like so many important things happen. I'm just in there cooking Indian food in my kitchen right next door. It is one of the most exciting cities, I would say. It has so many, it is also the city of museums. I've been to so many, and truly some of the greatest museums. It has so many monuments you can go to. Also really clean. No hate to New York, Eric, I'm sorry. Very clean, really good metro system. I love being in DC, but more than anything, it's the people that I interact with. I love that I could just go with my Georgetown buddies down to, say, for example, Tombs, which is the designated Georgetown bar, or I could go down anywhere in DC and just casually have a conversation to somebody who works so deeply into the government. People work at Pentagon, people work at the Hill, and we're just having everyday conversations about what's going on. It's something that people talk about DC is networking never stops in DC. You could be at Trader Joe's at Safeway, and you could bump into someone and really get along to it. And I know everybody in business school talks about networking, and truly DC provides that unique perspective of expanding the horizon of business from just business to how it affects communities and policies, and truly in America, how it brings things together in a more cohesive environment. And I think DC is such an exciting and powerful place to be at.
It's like double, right? You've got business leadership and government leadership
Yes.
in one place. And it's not just US government, but government from all over the world is constantly coming to DC as the place where the thing happens, right? The city where the things happen.
Yeah, and it just takes. Go ahead, Bara.
Oh, I just didn't know if Anne wanted to highlight more about DC and how it works with the school.
Oh, I would love to. Yeah. So just for personal context, I'm from a really small town in North Carolina, so in the southern part of the United States. And after I finished undergrad, I moved to New York for 7 or 8 years, and then went back to North Carolina for a couple of years, and then back to DC, where I've been here for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years as well. So that's my context for my perspective. And there is no city like New York City in the world, arguably. I would argue there's no city like DC in the world. Surprisingly, and I think this is a myth buster for DC, we have the highest number of Fortune 500 companies per capita in DC. It's not New York. And then when you put on top of that, not only the federal government, but the World Bank, the IMF, over 150 embassies, we've become such a technology hub too. A lot of startups have cropped up here. You know, if you think about it strategically, it just makes sense for companies of a certain size to have a presence in DC. But like Amazon's HQ too is in our backyard, and they continue to be the biggest recruiter for our MBA students. So we really benefit from this environment. Our students really benefit from this environment from a recruiting standpoint, unlike, you know, some schools that are located in a college, quote unquote, college town, a more rural area, who have to travel to recruiters. Our recruiters are in our backyard. So the accessibility is key. And then because of the diversity of employers that are in DC, that just gives our students access to a plethora of speakers and alumni as well. So I know we highlight a lot about politics. It's obvious we're the nation's capital, but there is such a big business center here in DC. Like some corporate headquarters, I mentioned Amazon, but Fannie Mae, Capital One, Hilton, Marriott, Nestle, like all their corporate headquarters are here. So if you haven't had the chance to visit DC, I personally love it because I feel like you get all of the benefits that a city affords you, like the culture that Medha was talking about, the museums, the arts, the food, the diversity of activities, but it feels more like a community. It's only about 800,000 people that live in the district. Now, a lot commute in from Virginia and Maryland, but the people who actually live here, there's so much green space, like so much hiking. That's 10 minutes from school. You're just in the middle of the woods. Or you can go kayak on the Potomac River, which I can see from my window. I'm in the office. So I feel like I have a more balanced lifestyle here. So to each their own. But for me, DC, I'm in love.
If I might add, because like I said, I am a big DC fan. There's a lot of great neighborhoods. And I don't think a lot of international people outside of the US necessarily realize where it is and how it's situated on the Potomac River, straddling between Maryland and Virginia. So it's kind of like its own district territory, right? That for the moment, it's been applying for statehood or trying to. But anyway, it sits between Maryland and Virginia. So people could live in the city itself, great metro transportation, it's super modern and clean. And trains also that go outside of the district into these states. And you mentioned green spaces. I mean, I've done jogs up that was like a Rock Creek. Super pretty. There's a great museum like life there. The restaurant scene's awesome. Yeah, big fan.
Yeah.
And you have an airport right in the city, Ronald Reagan Airport, and then you have BWI. You're only like 45 minutes to Baltimore, Arlington, and the Chesapeake Bay is right there, which is a beautiful like water beach area if you like boating, swimming, all that kind of stuff. So it's
And
really
the trains too. Like you can just hop on a train, the Acela.
Amtrak.
Yeah, and just like be in New York, and it's very quick.
Like
to
2.5 hours.
Yeah, super quick.
Also, Amtrak is based there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the
At Union Station. Mm-hmm.
the national headquarters of Amtrak. if
Oh,
people-
maybe. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. And so, like, the U.S. is not exactly famous for its trains. Definitely not high speed. But the closest thing there is in the U.S. is the Acela, which is a leg of Amtrak that runs from D.C. up through Philly, New York, and up to Boston. So, you're in New York City from D.C. in about 3.5 hours.
Or
Yeah.
2.5. If you take the Acela, it's like between 2.5 to 3.
Okay.
Yeah. If I could add a few things about DC, I'm sorry, I just love it so much. It is also the city of brunches. We take our brunches very seriously in DC. It's a city of happy hours. There is a weekly happy hour in the Congress Library. There is a weekly happy hour in the museums. There is a weekly happy hour at the Hill. There's always a happy hour you can go to in DC. And if that's not enough, there's a weekly happy hour in McDonough every Thursday. Additionally, I know Anne said that we are a very diverse city. I also wanted to point out we have the highest number of queer population per capita in the country as well in DC.
Amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, super exciting to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's
This
it.
takes
Why don't
me
you talk about?
This takes me
I was
back to the
thinking-
times, when Georgetown was hosting us, and so amazing to see all the cherry blossoms. And I want to say that, yeah, you might want to check it out as well. And coming to one more important thing is, like, as Bara also pointed out before, being in the center of power does something to you. Like it makes you feel so hopeful. And especially and I did take the Amtrak to Washington, D.C. So I can just say that it was late. So one time though. But moving on to one more best kept secret at McDonough is that it's a feeder school for Wall Street. So can you tell us a little bit more about that connection?
Yeah, absolutely. So we offer every year something called the Finance Trek, which is hosted by the Career Center at Georgetown McDonough. And the career team will take our students up to Wall Street in New York. And they've already set up all of these opportunities to get inside of these firms for networking, but also for potential recruitment. And so it's a great opportunity to get that inside info and also to make those connections. And if you look at our placement stats, our top 3 industries for placement are always financial services, consulting, and technology. Usually number 1 and number 2 bounce back and forth, financial services and consulting. But the woman who leads the vertical of financial services for career recruitment here at Georgetown McDonough, she used to work at NYU Stern and manage the Wall Street recruiting there. But she's a Georgetown alum, so fortunately she came back to us. So yes, we have a great reputation on Wall Street and with our recruitment and our partners there. So yes, that's. I'm glad that you recognize that as well.
I can add a few things there if you'd like.
Please. Yeah.
So I worked with the Career Center for these treks as well. And like Anne said, we have a finance track. We also have consulting tracks, tech tracks, marketing track, real estate days. And so truly the diversity. Oh, sorry. Truly I think it's.
Oh, it's motion censored. You have to like jump around.
Oh, there it is.
Wow.
We maybe real estate got mad at me. Sorry. We truly have diversity in terms of industries that people are interested in and how much effort McDonough puts in bringing opportunities to students. We also have great ties with several diversity conferences. We have National Black, which is one of the biggest MBA recruiting conferences in the country. We have Prospanica. We have Reaching Out MBA. We have the Veterans Conference. We have the Women's Conference. So it truly is very, very dedicated to helping students from all industries and diverse communities get the best possible career opportunities.
Thank you for that, Medha.
So to get to those careers, I think it's really about, when you're in an MBA, making sure you get into those right elective classes, getting into the right internship, and also participating in student associations or organizations, right? Clubs on campus, I think, is a big resource that MBA students leverage for getting to the next step in their career. So I wanted to ask you, as a student, what ways do you find that students can customize their experiences to align with their career goals?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. There are so many clubs at school. You can pick a club based on which career path you want. We have consulting club, finance club, real estate club, tech club, marketing club. And there's a lot more business associations based on communities as well. So you can be a part of that club. You can be part of the board. You can be part of the members. You can sign up to be you can sign up to be on other student body governments. And truly, it's a place where I think one of the greatest things that McDonough does is every week we have a weekly social for all the students. And every week it's hosted by a different club. So you get to learn so much about different identities and how they all come together. And just the opportunity to learn is immense there. But career wise, we definitely have a lot. And I know a lot of my friends join multiple of these clubs. I myself have also done that. And there are just so many events. And that is how you go into double and triple booking your calendars too.
Easy to do.
I
And
mean,
just to share about the structure that Medha just brought life to, we our student clubs and organizations for the MBA students, there are over 50 now, and they are categorized into three. Either they are professional clubs like consulting club or entrepreneurship, private equity club, etc., or they're affinity focused clubs. So Georgetown Women in Business or South Asian Business Association. Or they are purely social networking clubs like the Adventure Club or Wine Society. And so truly, we hope there's something for everyone, not only to be with like-minded individuals, but to explore out of curiosity and to expand their perspective. Typically, we see full-time students joining 3 to 7 clubs, but it really depends on if you're going to take up a board position. As Medha mentioned, obviously, that's more of a time commitment. But yes, a wonderful opportunity to expand your opportunities and getting to know one another.
So Medha, coming back to you, you were speaking about professional clubs, and I know you're, I think, vice president of the Marketing Association, right? The Student Marketing Club.
Yes, yes.
As I recall from checking out your LinkedIn profile, you have a background in marketing. I believe you even got a summer internship with UPS, right? This past summer?
Yes, I did.
That's awesome. So I'd love to hear about all this stuff. Like, first of all, I'm wondering, how does one as a student, you're an MBA student, right? You've got a lot of classes, group projects, there's lots to do. You're exploring DC, and yet joining 7 clubs sounds a lot. So I want to hear how you balance all this. Like, you're joining these clubs, your role in the marketing club, and then maybe you can get into the internship opportunity.
Oh, yes. I volunteered with the admissions team for welcome events as well. This is always a question I get. It's hard to balance it. It really is. And I think that's one of the things that I think McDonough has taught me, where I've learned to understand what I can prioritize at what time. There are times in the semester where I can do my assignments and it's not finals week and I can dedicate more time to the club work that I do have. And it is really, truly planned super well, where it does not it does not create a problem for any of the work you have. It is hard though. I've definitely have had some sleep deprived weeks. But I think that's part of the experience. I've bonded with a lot of my colleagues over those. It's friendships that I've created through these clubs. I've been on 3 boards I think being a part of the professional clubs is definitely one of the things that drives your internship and recruitment process too. One of the most helpful things on campus that we have is this group of people called peer advisors, where we have second year students helping out first year students, and we help them. I'm part of that cohort too, thankfully. We help them with resume write-ups, cover letters, how to apply, when to apply, where to apply. We have the Career Center does so much with trainings and webinars they're hosting. So it's more than just here's an opportunity, apply. It's more about how we can grow as professionals. So much so that they have set up photo booths for your professional headshot at least twice a year, minimum. I think we do 3 some years, but I've seen minimum 2. And it's truly what helps in the recruitment process. And I know you asked about my internship at UPS, and I met the UPS folks at Marketing Day and Marketing Trek that is hosted by the Marketing Association and the Career Center in association with each other. And I also met them at one of the diversity conferences, and it was that repetitive conversations with them that really led them to remember me when I was interviewing with them. And it's truly a wonderful experience because I couldn't have done it without the help of the alumni network, the marketing association, or the career center, or the diversity conference. I felt like a village was supporting me throughout it. And when I wrote out my thank you emails, I'm like, this Excel sheet is very long. Emails. But it truly has been a great opportunity, and UPS was absolutely amazing. I'll be going back there after graduation as a full-time employee as well.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Wow.
Medha, you showed some light on some important ideas. One, how your involvement has helped you get that internship and subsequently a job, it sounds like. Congratulations. And also, I think it's like the dovetail of multiple actions and the repetitiveness. It's not just like, oh, you send in a CV, you send a resume to UPS and then you got it. It's about having multiple involvements, right? You had multiple interactions and they got to see you several times, see different facets to you and your profile. I just think that's very important for people in our audience to understand as like part of what it is doing an MBA, but also I'm going to draw a parallel to the admissions process and the repetitiveness of you participating in an MBA fair, of showing up in an online open house with McDonough, about, I don't know, various interactions, an alumni coffee chat, where you make that repetitive but different angled impression on the admissions office to win the favor of the admissions committee, essentially. So it's useful in both arenas, I think.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It sounds like in DC. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, it sounds like in DC, you've got lots of practice at all these networking things and happy hours, right?
Oh, yeah, that definitely helps. Yeah, I was going to say, absolutely, that's the case. In fact, one of the parallels that I've drawn through my admissions process for McDonough and through the recruitment process at McDonough is that when I was applying for MBA at McDonough, I spoke to at least 3 alumni. And the best thing that I heard, was this phrase called Hoyas helping Hoyas. And I thought, oh, is there something on the website? It's truly not. Hoyas helping Hoyas, I think, is the most homogenous thing about MSB. It is truly the driving force of everything that happens here. And I see that when you recruit once after you join MSB as well, that there's so many people in your community helping you. You have your peers helping you. You have designated ambassadors helping you. You have your professors helping you. I've seen professors, finance professors, for example, tell people, I know interviews are coming up. If you need help with technical terms, reach out to me. I have time. I'll set up office hours for you guys. It's like, it truly is so helpful. And I've had sometimes professors, like I've been to them like, I'm sorry, I cannot attend your class. I have an interview. And I've had professors like go out of their way to make sure that I did not miss out on anything in class. And just a simple email like, hey, we're all rooting for you. Good luck for the interview. It means so much. And I do think that one of the things that really convinced me to go for McDonough was definitely Hoyas, helping Hoyas. And it truly is a value that everybody in McDonough has.
I'm so happy to hear that was your experience, Medha. You and I haven't talked about that, so I'm so pleased to hear it. And, I'll just echo that one of the benefits of reaching out to current students or alumni, really getting to know our community and of course, admissions committee members during the admissions process is it helps you make a more informed decision. Like, are these your people? Is this where you feel like could be your second home? So it really helps with that fit assessment. So obviously the best approach is immersion. If you're able to join us on campus, that's the ideal. But of course, for accessibility, we host plenty of virtual events. And then I hear all the time of candidates reaching out cold calls on LinkedIn to say, I'm considering Georgetown. Can you tell me about your journey there or what led you there? As far as I've heard, our alumni and students have been very receptive because, again, it's this community of giving of Hoyas helping Hoyas. It's ingrained in who we are. In our founding, our philosophy, our motto at Georgetown is people for others. So fortunately, the people attracted to work, study, learn here, teach here are share that value system of a service mindedness. So we truly are an extremely collaborative environment, and that starts in the admissions process and extends through your alumni time.
I'd love to talk about the admissions process. We have not touched on that, and we're 40 minutes in. So could we talk a little bit about, for example, how important are the tests, whether it's the GMAT, the EA, if you accept the GRE, and just the whole the process, if you could just illustrate what some of our listeners are going to need to know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, we needed to start with why Georgetown to get them all excited so that now they need to figure out what do you need to do. So I actually appreciate this order. So on the admissions side, we have holistic review, but what that actually means is we are looking across 3 different verticals of assessment. We're making sure that you are academically prepared, especially to be successful in our quantitative curriculum. We want to make sure that professionally, this is a good fit based on your background paired with our program to achieve your recruitment goals. And then lastly, the 3rd vertical is community and culture fit, which we've talked about most of this session and whether or not this is an environment in which you can thrive. So with your question specifically, Bara, on test, that is one of the data points we consider for predicting academic readiness, and that is paired with your academic background. So any academic history you have, whether it's undergrad, graduate, professional certifications, ad hoc coursework, we take it all into consideration. We certainly value most the MBA relevant work, academic work you've done. All that to say, we put in a lot of caveats, and we are very empathetic people. It's a requirement to do this job well. We assess people, not judge people on the admissions committee. So with that, to demonstrate what I mean, we recognize that on the day you took the test, it could have been the worst day of your life and that it did not accurately reflect your capabilities. We recognize that you graduated from undergraduate 8 years ago and that by no means is how you see yourself today. So we take into account another common example is you went to a really rigorous institution and studied one of the most rigorous majors there. We contextualize that. So just know that it is not black and white. We do not take these numbers and apply them to your directly to your capability. We look across measures. We take context you share with us openly. We ask to prevent making assumptions. And then more directly, we accept the GMAT, the GRE, and the executive assessment. We also have a test waiver, and the policy and eligibility is on our website. It's very, speaking of black and white, because we want you to be able to predict whether or not you'll be approved for the waiver or not. It's based on your academic history. We do not have a preference for test. You need to take the test you're most naturally inclined towards. Take the test, retake it again, find different studying techniques, study buddies, courses, self-study, whatever works for you. And we're here to support you along the way. We have practice GMAT exams on our website. So yes, the test does not define you, so do not let it intimidate you.
Sounds very doable.
Thank you.
And how to say, Anne, you guys have some of the best advice and also great instructions for the applicants as they go through the process. So I love some of the way that how you've set it up. And I wanted to deep dive a little bit into the essays and interviews and tie back it to what we discussed about how you identify the diversity focus of the school and how these essays and interviews tie it in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also would love to hear Medha's interview experience and how that informed her admissions process. So we invite candidates to interview that we advance in the process. So not everyone is invited to interview. Our operational process is we read applications first. And if you're deemed at least eligible for admit consideration on paper, then we invite you to an interview to get to know you further. And that interview is in person or Zoom, equal weight. Our interview team is made up of students, admissions committee members, and alumni. So the candidate needs to be prepared to be interviewed by any of those three types of people. It's double blind in that the candidate will not know who's interviewing them until they step into that room. And it's double because the interviewer has only seen the resume. And that is to prevent bias coming in. You don't know that they have a stellar GPA coming in, things like that. And the interview is a behavioral interview. We ask scenario questions, behavioral questions that help us understand that individual as a person. And so we've got the metrics and data in the application file. Now we get to know you as a human being. So that's really the purpose of the interview. We also have this is the last thing I'll say. We also have a video essay on the MBA application, and this is unique compared to our peers. The reason we do that is along the same theme as the interview, to humanize your application. This is your opportunity as a candidate to put a personality, a face, a presence to your application to force the admissions committee to look beyond the paper. And so it's my favorite part in assessing applications because, again, I get to know the person on a more real basis. It's a great contributing factor. So, but Medha, tell me, how was your interview and how did that influence your process?
Oh, yeah. So structurally, it's exactly like you said. I didn't know who was going to interview me. I had plenty of flexibility in picking a time and date that worked for me. And I was giving my interview from India. So that time difference flexibility really helps because I did not want to give an interview at 2 a.m. So I had the opportunity to pick a time and date where I could come back from work, relax, put myself in the right state of mind and give the interview. The interviewer was super friendly. It was a student at the time. And she really was one of the most friendly people. There was very clear, she came in, we had small talk, and then she laid out the structure of the interview very clearly to me, how many questions there's going to be. She told me there's going to be behavioral questions, and then she told me there's going to be a dedicated time at the end where I get to ask questions to her as well. And like Anne said, there were behavioral questions. I would say I know it can be a really intimidating process. And just the fact that my interviewer was so friendly and sweet and nice made it so easy for me to get through the interview and to have an honest conversation. And like Anne said, truly show that it's not just a piece of paper, it's a whole person who's had a whole life and is just one step in line to achieve their dreams and goals. And it truly was really special. And I know we've talked a lot about diversity, and I really did appreciate that one of the questions that I was asked was also based on how diversity has affected my professional work life. And I knew then that diversity is not just a tick in the box for Georgetown, it's something that's really important. And I think it was one of the best interview processes. And I was convinced then that if I got the acceptance offer, the offer to join, I would accept it because I just had such a wholesome, wonderful experience.
You know, I was going to ask initially, why did you ultimately choose Georgetown? But I think you've already answered that pretty clearly. Besides falling in love with the city, but also a really, I would say you were well accompanied on your admissions journey, right? It was clear, you felt welcomed, not intimidated, and it was really to help you make the right choice, which apparently you did. I do want to ask about, and this is really going to be to both of you, how McDonough Business School works within the ecosystem of Georgetown as a whole. But I'm wondering, since we're still talking about admissions, Medha, could you give us some insider tips? Like, what would you suggest, and how some of our listeners who are targeting Georgetown could be a great applicant and hopefully get admitted as well?
I think one of the things that Georgetown definitely valued in application and in the interview was how diversity minded you are. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but if that's something that you've worked on, if that's something that you've led in your professional experiences before this. And I think one of the bigger things for Georgetown applicants, at least in my experience, has been that how community oriented you are, because I know that all MBA schools are extremely competitive, but truly one of the things that Georgetown values is the collaborative nature of working with each other. And that's where Hoyas helping Hoyas comes in again. I would say, I know that being in DC is something that Georgetown is really known for. And that's also something, if you want to work in a place as diverse and powerful as DC. I know I sound really biased right now, but to me, that was something that I think helped me a lot in the process. The fact that I knew how it played into the DC ecosystem, and I would say stories about how you can inherit the same values as Hoyas helping Hoyas. I think that was the driving force for sure.
By the way, what the heck is a Hoyas?
So every Georgetown person is a Hoya. Our school cheer is Hoya Saxa. So everybody in Georgetown is a Hoya. And that's why the slogan is Hoyas helping Hoyas. I should have said that in the beginning. Sorry about that.
All good, all good. I've always heard of Georgetown Hoyas on like sweatshirts and stuff since I was a kid. I'm like, what the heck is that? I'll pretend. But so tying that into what I was actually going to ask, and I sort of mentioned it, how does McDonough fit in with the ecosystem of Georgetown as a whole? And that's kind of to both of you. And keeping in mind, we have not so much time left, but would love to know that before we wrap.
I'm happy to start, Medha. Please, you come too. So I mentioned earlier the access to recruiters, access to speakers, that we cannot underestimate because that, in reality, our MBA students, one of the main drivers of coming to our program is to get their dream job. And so you need to have access to those employers within your wish list, within your target list, and we need to have those relationships. So again, we're in a major US city in the nation's capital, so we've got that access. But one initiative I want to highlight just as an example of our work within the local ecosystem is a new initiative called the Small Business Corps. And this is an opportunity for current MBA students to do consulting work with local small businesses. Because obviously our MBA students are brilliant and they have a lot of skills to offer that small businesses might not yet have the capacity or the resources to have in-house. And so I love that this is an opportunity for us to help these small businesses grow and be successful and benefit from this partnership with Georgetown. So that's one example that I'll say about our ecosystem. But Medha, I know you have many other examples, please.
Yeah, I would say even the business school within the main campus fits in so well. There's so many opportunities in other schools where you can actually take some of those classes too. I know the McDonough School of Policy has a lot of classes that a lot of my colleagues take, and the speakers that Anne mentioned, and overall within Georgetown, there's definitely so many connections that you can make, and that's how I would describe it for sure. Also, one of the things that the school does when you come in is they send you on a treasure hunt of sorts across Georgetown. That was my favorite thing. I got to see the Exorcist steps, which is literally just a couple of feet away from school, and all the other cool things in Georgetown.
Wow.
Yes, the Exorcist steps are intense. For those who don't know, Exorcist is a terrifying movie. And there's a scene that has the steps that are in Georgetown. And unfortunately, some people exercise on them. I don't know why they would do that to themselves, but yes, they exist.
Hold on,
it's
you're
the
taking
original
exercise
one.
like push-ups or exorcise?
Run up and down these incredibly steep
Okay.
and scary steps.
That
I'd
came
rather
out.
talk about the Foggy Bottom. That sounds like more fun.
Yes, that is a neighborhood also close to here, Foggy Bottom.
But the bar I'm talking about. What's your favorite bar in Georgetown?
Oh, I would say Clubhouse, but Toombs has a special place in my heart. But Clubhouse is good. We also have a on-campus bar. It's called Hilltop Tap Room.
Oh, that's true.
Cool. Yeah.
That is true. I like, I hope it's still open post-pandemic. The Whiskey Room, it's on M Street, which is the main street in Georgetown. It's a quiet little speakeasy. I love the music they play. I like the lighting. So the whiskey.
But there's a bar named Tombstone, and you're talking about The Exorcist.
I know
What's
how
going on here?
It's called Just Toombs, and it has the Georgetown mascot on it too.
But it is underground, so it kind of feels like
Yes,
you're going into like
it does.
It's the Crips. You talked a little bit. I'm just going to jump gears quickly because we really are going to be finishing up soon about the alumni network. And I understand you've got Hoyas helping Hoyas. Can you talk a little bit? Can you flesh out a little bit more about how alumni do impact the students, either the ones that are graduating or the current ones that are in school? Like, do they come and give talks, or do they, how does Hoyas helping Hoyas? How is it exemplified with the alumni?
Yeah, I want to give one example in the interest of time, and Medha, then I'll pass to you. So one example is a leadership course, a core leadership course called Leadership Communications. All full-time MBA students must take it. And the final exam of that course is called the Executive Challenge. And this is a day-long simulation where alumni are coming in, about 120 to 150 alumni on their own nickel and dime in order to participate. And they play a mock C-suite in small teams where the students are presenting a solution to a case study. And then they're assigned these roles. You're the disgruntled CFO. You are the arrogant CEO. You're the pleasant, whatever. And they really embody these personas. And that is the final exam, is this presentation and this interaction to really imitate real life scenarios in the C-suite. And again, our alumni are coming in on their own. We end the day with a wonderful networking, also naming the winning team. But that is a year-over-year tradition.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up the same thing, but I was on the winning team last year, so I'm very happy.
Congratulations!
To represent. Additionally to that, one of the greatest things that I had last year, the pleasure of doing, is volunteer for a mentorship program where a lot of alumni mentor you on a personal basis. I got matched with this amazing alumni. Shout out to you, Elena. She lives in Singapore. She's a Georgetown alum, and we truly really developed a friendship. We still keep in touch. We send each other Christmas cards. It's super sweet. So it really does go above and beyond. So apart from coming in for talks and being recruiters for companies, there's also a mentorship program, and of course the great big leadership executive challenge.
Sounds very rich and not just professional, but personal, right? And ultimately, the professional is the personal, right? It's the relationships that we make. So it sounds great.
Yeah, sounds like a crazy but caring community that you're all having. So, before we wrap up, what is one tip you would share with MBA hopefuls?
I can go first if you'd like, Anne.
Please.
I would say be yourself. I know it sounds cliche, but truly be yourself. It's okay. I know for a fact that MSB interviewers will be very nice and sweet. Be yourself, assess the school, see if it's truly aligned to your values, see how if you're aligned to the school's value, and you'll do great. It tends to get really intimidating, but just remember that it's also another person on the other side of the screen. And I know it gets harder when you're doing this over Zoom, but it truly is just another person. Just have a conversation.
I love
Really
that.
nice.
Can I just say, I ditto. I think Medha phrased it really well. So I think we should end with that, to be honest.
Being authentic.
Absolutely. Well, guys, this has been awesome to get to know both of you as individuals and to get to know Georgetown University and McDonough School of Business. I'm feeling inspired. I want to visit DC again soon. I don't know when I'll next be in the States or in the DC area, but I'll definitely be getting in touch and go Hoyas. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to give us a little thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you want to stay on top of all the latest and greatest in the world of MBAs. This episode will be on YouTube, so you can always watch it later if you missed anything. And I'm sure the folks in the episode would be happy to hear from you if you have any further questions. Thanks for joining us today. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks.